Okay, my friends, Roger once again, Mud Fossil University. Going to try to make this short and golden sweet. Gold. Everybody wants to know what gold is. Well, gold, where do you find it? Gold in all metals are found in the blood of creatures. Every single metal is in your blood. Every single one. Uranium, iridium, every single blood. Now, every single metal. Now, why is gold so unique? Gold is separates from everything else. It wants to be amongst itself. So it collects together, and it's so heavy that it sinks to the bottom, and it will sink to the bottom of a creature's body if the creature was standing up when it died in the Great Flood, which is what the remains of all the things that I deal with are the remains of creatures' bodies that were drowned or starved during the Great Flood. Now, what does that mean? That means that they died and their bodies became invaded with salt waters, which protects soft tissues and destroys bones. Now, the skin started to erode, which is sand, because silicon is 50 times more dense in your skin. That's SiO2, silicon dioxide, 50 times more in your skin. That's where the sand comes from. Then you get into mud, which is the flesh, the very fine red mud. Then you get into the anchors, the stone balls, the tendons, and so forth. Now, Scott Wiles sent me a picture here. He's a very good researcher out in West Coast. And I want to show you something in a moment. But first of all, we're going to talk about gold. Gold is found with other blood metals. And gold is found primarily in arteries that where the red blood was, the red blood drained out because there's no restrictions to it. It flows out into solution in the waters. It fills up with silicon dioxide, and wherever the blood was is heavy. Where the gold was is heavy, and it collects in these little pockets. Now, the veins seal off, so you rarely find gold in the vein tubing because it's sealed off with valves, and that's where the black blood is. So now the size and the body orientation at death determines where the nuggets are and the location of where the blood is. Now let's talk about a guy's body. This is the guy here died. He's a dead guy. Now if he's standing like this when he died and floated, and he's in the mud like this, and he's got 1 foot deep trying to push the other foot out, the other foot is up here, and he was buoyant during this event. If he was, all of the heavy metals will drain. He'll have copper and lead and gold, and everything will be in layers because of specific gravity. Now, and it's because these things were gigantic, the feet can go down literally a mile. It's 1,600 feet they just hit. Tons of gold over there in Australia. You look it up, the biggest gold find I think forever. All they brought up was like 2 big chunks. They weighed so much, it was $15-16 million or something. Anyway, now if the guy died like that, it just drains straight down into the arterial calcaneal branch, and you actually see the gold in there. They call them ram's horns because they form like the veins, and I'll show you some. Now, the guy died like this. What happens? It's all laying there flat. All of these things are going to lay flat, and the gold will not settle in his feet. It will settle in parts of his body that were flat like this. Now, if his hand is like this, sticking down, it's going to end up in his fingers. If his foot hung down like this, it's going to end up in that toe. That's the way it works. Now, if they're standing up, it's in his feet. All right, so look, I want to show you what Scott sent me. Now, I told you that the red blood, moss and lichen absolutely thrive on red blood. This is what we see here. This is red blood. That is a chunk of red blood. And you can see what it's doing. It's turning into mud, very fine mud. Now, what do we see here? These are the tendon balls. Those are tendon balls. You see, and these still have some little bloody attachments to them, but these other ones have lost their attachments. See the little holes? So the blood is gone, and they no longer are attracted, or moss and lichen is attracted to them. However, what I am seeing here looks to me like a dead guy laid here, boom. You see how these straight? This was like a dead guy's body. Underneath here might be something solid that supported this. Well, what should you find here? If he was died like this, I would suspect to find a whole bunch of little bits and pieces of gold had laid down in this real slimy, muddy stuff. Because if the gold was in his body, where's my dead guy? Oh, here it is. All right. And all these little tendon balls are all over because they hold every one of your tendons to an anchor spot. That's what this is. And this is the bloody area that ends up being the flesh to connect it to the tendon, to connect it to the meat, and so forth. So if the guy died like this, I would expect to find little bits and pieces of gold everywhere. You got to go down way deep. I don't know how far down. But it may not even have to go too far down, because if the underneath of here had never allowed water to filter through it, you would end up with a layer down here. It would almost be like bedrock, but it would still be a mud layer, but it would never have been, the gold would have never sunk down through it. Or maybe the gold sunk all the way down to the bottom of it. It could be a mile down there. I don't know. But when they die laying flat, you're going to get these little bits and scraps and pieces. And, you know, there's lode gold, and then there's placer gold. Placer gold is tiny little flakes and stuff that drifts down and collects here and there. Lode gold is the source. And somewhere in here is going to be chunks of gold, gigantic chunks of gold. But it may be extremely deep. I don't know. But if the guy laid like this, there will be gold laying all through his body. The little bits here and there. You know, for a gigantic guy like this, it'd be big bits. But when they go like this and it all goes to the bottom, here's what happens. All right, these are arterial branches. It comes like down here, and the blood runs into the vascular network, and it comes back over here, is retrieved. The blue blood goes back up into the veins and back up to be recirculated, get reoxygenated. All right, there's exactly what happens. The gold came down and starts to clog up here, drains over there. You can actually see red blood in amongst the gold. It always has a little bit of it in there. There's another one right there. That's what happens to them. They clog up in there because it's just like clogging up in your drain. There's nothing to force it down, and it starts to set up. And this might be a little bit of a different alloy of, you know, different types of metals will combine in that same area, but primarily the gold will hit the bottom. It's very, very heavy. Look at that, and that's a gold toe. You say, oh no, it's not a gold toe. Yes, it absolutely is. The gold, I mean, the blood comes down, and you have, well, here. All right, this is a finger. Fingers and toes, basically the same thing. You see that black pattern right there? See that black pattern? That's the distal phalanges. Those two holes right there are over here. You know, like this is like this. Those two holes are over here, and it collects over here. These are plugged up, but these are where the veins are. And you see the vein and the artery? That's the vein, that's the artery. I have another one here. Hold on. In a minute, I gotta find it. Hold on, let me, oh, here it is. All right, here, this is the same thing. You see these two here? You see that hole right there and that hole right there? That is blood. That's where the blood was. The other side is plugged up. You see those two spots there? So it would be like this. You know, that type of thing. And the gold had filled in there, and it filled in where the blood was supposed to be. That's the vein side that plugs up. This is the artery side they blow out. Now that just filled up and with all the blood, with the gold. See, there's the tip. The tip also has an extensive amount of blood in it. That's what they call the apical tuft. I have one right here. That's an apical tuft. That's what's right at the tip of fingertips. And that's where all these little holes, the tendon balls anchor in there, and that's what makes them do all this stuff. So that's all right. I'm not going to make any claims, but it sure looks like this is red blood. This is the black side of the blood, the oxygenated, deoxygenated. This would be a lung, and that separation layer looks like it has collected blood. Gold there. I'm not going to claim that's a fact. I haven't seen it or been there, but it sure looks like it to me. Now you see the metals that are in there. This was a toenail. That's the guy's callus on the side of his toe. It's just bizarre. You can't tell. This is where it attached here. Right, this is callus. Right, this would have been a right big toe, and that's the metals that collects, and they get heavily metalled, and that's because the metals run down into the feet. And the same thing with this. This is like major metalled toe. That's all it is left is the toe. That was the tip of the toe, and this is where the bone is left over. The last bit of bone that's still remaining is here. And you see all the blood. That's where the blood went in. It's the red blood right there. It's absolutely obvious. See the red blood? That's the black blood. There's a red blood side, the black side. Artery, vein. Same thing down here. There's your artery down here. The arteries blow out. The veins don't blow out. That's why these lumps are still here. Alright, so now let's do a little microscope work. And the gold is... I'm going to show you something else where you should look for gold. And then we'll go into the microscope shots. Because gold is found among transition metals. And transition metals are found in lungs. Because gold, blood is in the lungs. Now, again, if the guy died laying down, and his lung was here, and then it just eroded out, in between the crystals of the lung, in between these colored little pebbles, is where that blood was, and that will be a very fine, fine mud. And in that fine, fine mud, the gold would have been. And if it melted in the permafrost or whatever, it would flatten out flat, and you'd see this whole big plain of these colored stones, and you'd say, oh, there's nothing there. There might be gold down in that mud. I saw the Russian guy. I know it's a fake thing, but it looks like it would work. I'm going to show you. I know it's a fake. I'm sure it is. But when I first saw it, I said, this is what I would look for. This is where I would look. Just so you understand, gold comes in different colors. As you get your copper mixed in, and different metals mixed in with the gold. But if the gold collects to its heaviest spot, it will flocculate together. It will seek its own kind at its heaviest depths. Alright, this is a Russian guy did this, and I'm 100% certain that it's staged. However, if you see this terrain here, you say, oh, well, there couldn't be any gold in there. There's no mountains. You don't need mountains. If this was a flat terrain of a creature's body, my dead guy, laying like this, and you were in the lung area, you would find colored little pebbles like I have shown or will show. Now, watch this. All right, he's going to go around here. Now, look at what you're seeing here, these little colored pebbles. You see those? You'll see these again, or you have seen them. Those are in lungs. Now, watch what he does. Now, you see how fine that mud is? That's the blood. That's where that ends up with the blood being like this. So, what he's doing, you see all these different little colored stones and that little fine mud? I agree, there could be gold in there, but not the way he's finding it. Like he's just, like walking over and looking at it and picking it up. This is just not, he's hiding Easter eggs. But the point being, and you see the sand? Sand is the silicon dioxide. That's the dense skin. The mud is the blood. Anything heavy should be under this mud, but it should be right in this area, I would say. I'm not, what he's talking about here is not outside of the realm of possibility. This is just silly, but I'd like to find another spot where, alright, what you want to do is find a place where the water has run off. You got a bunch of these pebbles here and there, and you find a little rivulet coming through there. And then find a pocket like this in the middle of that rivulet. So it comes in, then you find a little scoopy area, and then it comes back out. Go in that scoopy area. Alright? Now, he's just using it to wash his stuff out. I would go in that scoopy area because the water had run through there. The heavy stuff will drop in there. The water will continue on. But you need to find a good rivulet. But this is the kind. See that? That is the remains of blood. And this area, I would say, was probably runoff from glacial melting. You know, from the Arctic. This is up way up in Russia somewhere. And because he claims right in the title it says mud stream. See? Gold rush. Mud streams feed big pieces of gold. No, it's not like that. That's just silly. But they are finding it up coming out of this dam. They find it or after the spring runoffs, and that's coming down off the mountains. This is not necessarily has to go anywhere. This was just a dead guy laying flat. He wasn't way up in a mountain running off. That's my take. Could be wrong. Now look at that. There's a gold finger. That's one of the blood vessels. It just ended up being solid gold. That's the tip. That's what the fingertip. Hold on. Alright, this is for Lyle. Lyle, this is some mud fossils that I made right here in my lab. This go 2-3 years ago I did this. Now, they're pretty well solid. You know, I mean, they're not like hard like a rock right now. But trust me, they will become. Everything transitions over. You see, this is the material that they've become. You see, they will move in and out. You see them moving flexible? There's still some flexibility here, but that will change and that will become solid as rocks. You see, this is all the same stuff that I made. This was out of chicken tissue, and it was you use salts and, you know, sand and mud and blood and all that stuff, which is the same stuff that would come from what was in the salt waters. And then what I did was I put a little bit of electricity through it, because there is electric telluric currents are in the earth, and that's what you ended up with. Now this right here is from rocks that I have here. Here's another one right here. You see this? This is hold on. You saw the mud fossil that I made. This is a toe. I guarantee you that's a toe. There's the artery, there's the vein. This is not, this is solid. Alright, there's the guy's other toe. Now, this is what happens to them. They end up solidifying. Now, look at this. You see that? There was gold coming out of there. There's transition metals running all out of there. And that is the artery right there. I can absolutely positively guarantee you that's the vein. And this guy had a callus too. Oops, here it is right here. There's the guy's callus. Right, the other side didn't have the callus. That has that squishy skin that goes next to it. This is a right foot big toe as well. And that's where the apical tuft is at the end. And all of this little garniferous looking stuff. See the little garnets and stuff right there? That's red blood that has dripped out of the end, because this side is, oops, maybe you didn't see it. You see the little red garnet looking stuff? You see that spot right there? That's the red artery that runs down this side to this red artery. That's the black side. The black side doesn't blow out. It doesn't blow out because it seals off. So I made my case. Mud fossil is 100%, and Lyle hopefully is going to help me to peer review it, is what he said he would do, and I'm hoping he'll stick with it. And now this over here is grip skin. You will see that pattern within the grip skin. And the grip skin is on your fingertips, your palms, and all that. And on your palms and your fingertips, it is extremely dense with silicon. Let's see what we got down here. I got all kinds of stuff. You see that? Here's a blood vessel. That's a blood vessel. You go right down, look deep down inside of them, which I have. I've got scabs coming off of them, and you can see the fiber. And these are all blood vessels. You know, these rocks are like that. Look at that. There's a rock. The rock has blood flowing out of it. I had one here that just absolutely gushed blood out of it. I mean, you can get blood out of any rock. Almost. Oh, now, I almost forgot. That's lung tissue. And it's from a little lung like this, probably. Now, this reddish looking stuff, that's blood. It goes all around the crystals, then there are literally crystals, transition metals, which are in your lung, you know, little round ball holes that are in the lung, and the air goes in there, and it mixes with these metals, and the blood changes from carbonic acids to carbonic gases and back and forth. You take gases in from the air, you expel gases out. And a lot of them, 3,500 of them. But this is the area. There'd be gold in there. If this was gigantic and that was 100 tons, or you know, a ton worth of gold right there, you would have a couple of pounds of gold. And they would collect in these little spots as this thing washed away. Now, I'm going to show you, I have this one right here, and you should be able to see it pretty easily. Hold on. Let's come off of that picture, out of the way. Whoops, wrong mouse. There we go. Now I'm on my microscope. Let's see if I can find anything in here of interest as far as metals go. You can see all these different crystals. All these different colors are biology. Let me see if I can get something down here where it makes darkness. You got to get the right light and the right. You know, you got to play around with the light condition. Let me see if I can really home in on this. You see these? I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on here. That blood is making its way through these colored transition metal lung cavities, and they filter around the outside of the holes. I believe they call it the alveoli. I may be wrong, but I think it strikes me that that's what they call it. Now, those tissues are where the air goes in and the blood surrounds it and takes off the things or impregnates it with whatever it wants, and that's all done by pH, really. Carbonic gases and acids. And in somewhere in there, that might be a chunk of gold. I don't know. It could be a little tiny chunk of gold. But it's going to be so tiny in this tiny thing that you're never ever going to find it. That's what they call placer gold, little tiny little itty bitty bitty flakes. But this is the material we're talking about from the biological lung of a creature. So, what does that mean? If this was full of blood, you would expect to find gold within that blood. It's just the way it works. And if the guy was laying down and you found a whole ton of these little pebbles, you see it? These little pebbly looking things? All those pebbles are lung tissue. You see it? There's a zillion pebbles. They call them concretions. They're not concretions. They're lungs. And the others, when they see the other part of it, let me see if I can focus it. You see how many little bits and pieces there are in there? And all the rest is blood. And this, on the outside, it's already washed away. But what happens is after the blood washes away, and whatever was in the blood, the heavy metals, would go to the bottom, I would think, underneath all these little colored pebbles. Now, on the other side, we can see this. You see this? When they take cuttings they see these little fractured, colored little things. They say they're shock quartz. Well, it's not a shock quartz. It's lungs. There is no well, there is shock quartz, but it's a real iridescent looking thing. It's not like this, but they lump this into shock quartz because they have no idea how this is made. It is a lung. Now let me show you where you might want to look. Well, first of all, let's look at this one. This one's very cool. Remember that one? Let's take a look at this. All right, that's I mean, look at that. Hold on, I'm going to get a little more light on it. This is it's real flashy. There's a lot of colors in it. See? I mean metals in this. You see how the colors flash and stuff. It's a spectacular chunk of metal. It's all kinds of different metals combined in the tissue of the toe. See it? And there's your blood and all the. That's what they do. They're very, very strange looking stuff. Now, this is what's left of the bone, and it's going to be hard to home in on. Now. I really can't. It's just a little tiny little bit of bone. There's little white spots of bone. Anyway, that's this, and it's a chunk of metal. And once was a toe. Now this toe was a little higher up than the other guys. That maybe this toe was up here, and the other toes were down lower. Because it's specific gravity. It sorts it out. They sort out metals using specific gravity right now. That's what metal panning is. That's what gold panning is. You are sorting it out by its weight.